Kitchen Table Talks return next week. And if you're interested, head over to canadapoly.com and sign up on the email thing. And I'll send you an email. I'm going to email like midweek this week just to remind everybody. And then I'll email on Sunday with a link and we can all hang out in a Google chat and then I'll post it and it'll be good. So that'll be fun if you could join us. Digital ID and free speech are hot targets right now, and we're going to talk about that. Yesterday, I talked about how Tim Pool took money for some episodes that were paid through Tencent, and somebody said Tim Pool didn't take any money; it was all Laura Chen. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm perhaps not fully up to speed on this whole thing. First, I heard about it initially and read Tim Pool's gut response, like his initial like, screw you, I didn't do that response. And I thought it was funny and I was going to read it. And then by the time I was going to read it on the show, he had deleted it. So I don't know. And then I can't remember who I watched, but they did a whole breakdown of the whole thing talking about how doing that many episodes, getting that few views and taking that much money seems stinky. And I thought, well, yeah, that makes a good point. And then after I did my show yesterday, some people commented saying, no, that's not exactly correct. So apologies that I'm not getting this smear campaign correct, because I think that's fundamentally what it is. Like, I don't know if Lauren Chen was a patsy or if she was like the initial person, like the patient zero, and then she used her influence, like the Chloe character on Smallville for the Nuxium cult, right? So she'd like lure the girls and then you're in the program now, right? So kind of like that. I don't know. It's one of those things where I have no idea if it's a legitimate problem, like Russia really did pay Lauren Chen and Lauren Chen really did push for all of these people to post pro-Russian stories, or if it's a smear to get the internet and speech shut down. I'm leaning towards a whole smear campaign and a psyop to get the internet and speech shut down, but I don't know. I'll let you make that decision. That's just kind of my feeling on it at this point. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. And even more than what I've mentioned in the initial preamble to the show, which is long, right? Like it's not a short little preamble. So there's lots and lots of interesting stories for like a Saturday morning. Weird, right? So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We got to talk about free speech, Russia, and all of the stuff going on. And we actually have to, I'm not usually the news. I try and keep myself, I'm not the news. I'm just presenting the news, right? Like what's happening is happening to everybody, not just me. But I have a story about Spotify. So Spotify people, listen up. This is about you. I've done this rodeo a couple of times, and it's the Censorship Rodeo. And I am not sure how the Spotify thing's going to go. When I got my YouTube channel banned, what happened initially was that I started getting emails. So I'd run my YouTube channel since 2018, and then into 2019 through an election, and then into 2020. And then in 2020, when I started saying, hey, like you can't actually make these claims because these claims have no basis in reality. They started sending me emails saying these episodes violate our terms of service, and they were vague terms of service. And when I asked about specifically which parts, they would ignore me. Or when you appeal the ban, or when you appeal whatever they're saying, then you basically hear back from them, shut up, like stop being weird on our platform. And it's like, okay, I guess. I don't have any recourse, and I still don't have any recourse. I lost that channel. It had 15,000 subscribers, and it's gone. So, I mean, whatever. But that's why you don't build your money-making thing on somebody else's platform that they can just turn off. Like, that's a bad idea. And so I learned that lesson the semi-hard way. I didn't have all my eggs in the YouTube basket, but, you know, I had to retool the whole show, and now I do something different. But that Censorship Rodeo taught me a couple of lessons, and now we're a couple of years on, and it's a new platform, and they're doing the same thing. And it's interesting, and I'm going to show it to you. So I'm not the news, but today I'm the news. First, I want to point this out, and then we'll get into my Spotify thing. Sassafras says, this right here, do you understand? And Cody says, how do people not see? Zuckerberg, Facebook, Meta, admits our government forced his censorship of real news. France just arrested Pavel from Telegram for not sharing private citizen data. Brazil bans X for not censoring and limiting political opponents. UK arrests citizens for speech they don't like. People, wake up. There's only one way this ends. Read your history, 1984, Brave New World, and someone protect Elon. I don't know about the protecting Elon, but the rest of it, I'm right on board with. So here's my story from yesterday, and yesterday is when this happened. Like, I'm trying actively to solve this problem because these emails started coming 2 days ago. The first one came to the email associated with my Spotify account, and like my blog or the Canada Poly show Spotify account came to that one, and the other one came to my admin Canada Poly email, which was weird because they're different emails, and I was like, what is going on? And the one that came to the admin Canada Poly didn't come to my main Spotify account, and I thought, well, that's even weirder. When the emails came, they didn't have any information about the videos themselves. They had a really long alphanumeric thing, and it said like type of media, video, and one was audio, file name, and it was a long alphanumeric name, like the name that it would assign to the video on its servers after it had been processed, but not the video name, not any kind of identifying information. I had no idea which videos were taken down by that email. None. No idea whatsoever. And they said, we understand that you might be disappointed because they're taking down your creation and potentially impacting your monetization, right? So they're saying, like, we understand this might be upsetting to you. They said, if you're in the EU, you can appeal by clicking here. So I went to the support and I was like, listen, I'm not in the EU, but I'd really like to understand this was an hour, both of these episodes. Well, first I'd like to understand which episodes they were. And once we established that, I was like, both of these episodes are an hour-long episode. And I guess, well, one of them's an hour long, one of them's a half hour long. But I said, what's the timestamp? Like, where did I violate this policy? But I'm getting ahead of myself. So here's what I wrote down. This is my tweet. This is a weird situation with Spotify. They say that I violated their dangerous content policy, and they removed 2 of my episodes. The dangerous content policy is specifically against counseling people to harm themselves, which I don't do. So here's the policy. The dangerous content policy reads, please don't encourage others to do anything that could put themselves or anyone else in serious physical harm. This includes, but isn't limited to, dangerous challenges or acts of suicide and or self-harm. Can you think of an episode ever where I've said even if I read something that sounds like a bad idea, I preamble that with, don't do this. This is a terrible idea. Don't do this. And here's what they say. And then I read the thing and I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't harm yourself. Holy smokeronis. Don't harm yourself. So I don't think that I engage in the policy. Here's the link for anybody. And so they're saying that I'm engaging in the dangerous content policy. Those 2 episodes violate the dangerous content policy. And I'm asking, where? Which ones? Now, in Demonic Insanity, that's one of the episodes that they removed, Demonic Insanity 1640. In Demonic Insanity, I repeatedly say that transgenderism is something that is fake, that biologically transgenderism is not possible. You can't transition from male to a female. And I make it very explicit and plain, and I laugh about it a lot. And I think that maybe that's what they're after. But I want them to tell me. I don't want to guess. Like, if you're like in a relationship with somebody, and I'm in a relationship with Spotify because I put content on their network, and people pay me for access to that content, and then I get paid. So that's a relationship, okay? And so if in a relationship, your significant other or the other party in the relationship says, I don't want you to do that anymore, and you say, do what? And they say, you should know. That's a bad situation to be in. They should be very explicit. I don't want you to squeeze the toothpaste anymore. I don't want you to post things that encourage people to do self-harm. But when you say, okay, I don't remember squeezing the toothpaste. Could you show me the toothpaste that's squeezed? The next time I squeeze the toothpaste, just keep it squeezed and show me exactly how I'm squeezing it so I don't do that anymore. I can't do that. That's incredibly insulting. I'm not going to do that for you. Okay. So that's where we're at with Spotify. So here's the email I sent to them. So I reached out to them to the chat thing. And then the chat person tried to help me. And they said, this has to be elevated. I don't have the whatevers to see this. And so they elevated me to a team. And the team emailed me and said, give us some time. We have to go through all of this, and then we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And I said, okay, thanks. Like, I'd really just like the timestamp of why you think that I'm encouraging someone to harm themselves or to commit suicide or like dangerous challenges or whatever. Like, just give me the timestamp. That's like, I'll watch it and like, I'll try and not do that again, because I don't want to do that. Right. I don't know how you've interpreted what I've said as that, but okay. I want to know what you think I said, and then I want to watch it and then change my behavior to adhere to your community guidelines. So this is the email I got after that initial exchange. So they were like, hold on a second. And I was like, cool, I just want the timestamp. And then they responded with this: hey, again, thanks for sticking with us as we team up to settle this issue. We're writing to inform you that the episodes that we previously removed from Spotify will remain taken down. That's KTT 100 and Demonic Insanity 1640. But the hour-long Demonic Insanity is still up. The short version's out. Short version's gone. As a reminder, our community guidelines prohibit content that violates our policies. This also means that your removed episodes were found to be in violation of these guidelines. Sharing this article for your reference, which is the link I just showed you. We understand that creating content can be challenging, and we appreciate your efforts to contribute to our platform. However, it's also important that all content complies with our community guidelines to ensure a safe and positive experience for all users, except the users asking what the heck I did to trigger this thing. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us back. I did have questions and I did contact them back. So the question at the top there says, can you give me the timestamp of the offending content? And then they said, hey there, appreciate you writing back. Unfortunately, all the info we have available were included in the email notices that we've sent to you. We're unable to provide the specific timestamp for your content, and we can only direct you to Spotify for podcasters' community guidelines. In the meantime, you might find this resource helpful. Please know that we're here to help the best way we could by following the correct process. Your understanding is much appreciated. Should there be anything else we can help with, please let us know. And I said, escalate me to a higher person. Escalate me to your boss. Escalate me to the owner of the company, escalate me to whoever needs to be escalated to, take me to your team leader now, and let me speak to them, because it doesn't seem like I'm getting through to you. Telling me not to do that and not telling me what it is, giving me vague community guidelines, is bullshit. It doesn't do a damn thing to solve the problem. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to censor me. They're trying to say, look, he kept violating community guidelines, the dangerous content guidelines. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. And if you say I did, please prove it, right? Give me the timestamp. Tell me when, right? They won't. So here we are. We may be at an impasse. And it's interesting. Like, I like being on Spotify, but if they remove me, sorry, everyone. Like, I am trying to solve this problem. They are trying to censor me, and that's what's going on. So you can always buy a subscription through the website until they censor that. CanadasInfowars.com. Or CanadaPoly.com, either one. Maybe I should buy CanadasInfowars.com. Anyway, that's what's going on with me, but it's bigger than that too. Like, at least they're not saying that I'm working for the Russians yet. Soon, just wait. Somebody's gonna. I'm not working for the Russians. The only people I take money from are the people who subscribe to my show, and like people that I work with for job purposes and things like that. But I'm, as far as I know, not working with any Russians. Period. I don't take money from Russians. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it would be false if they said, oh, Mark's spreading Russian propaganda, not knowingly. So, and if I say anything hinky, I'm like, listen, it's up to you. Take everything with a grain of salt. Please double check my sources, because sometimes I get things wrong, and I try and tell you when I get things wrong. But I mean, my brain's a sieve sometimes, right? Sometimes things fall out of my head. Sometimes I'll tell you, I'm going to tell you about the milk story, the non-milk vegetable oil story. And then I forget, like 10 seconds later. So I do my best. I'm trying here. Anyway, moving on, or back to the broader speech story. It's not just me that they're doing this with. They're more broadly cracking down on anyone and everyone using bullshit excuses. Here's another example. Jennifer says, now Facebook and Instagram are about to join TikTok in banning posts that refer to trans-identified males as males. It's hate speech, you see. Social media companies are erasing our ability to talk about this issue by co-opting the language, calling truth hateful. Sex is binary, biology is real, trans women are men. These are true statements, but Meta says that's hate speech. I knew I didn't trust Zuckerberg's apology. Yeah. Over to the Department of Justice. What's hate speech? According to Fox News, and well, Champagne Joshi says this is what the Department of Justice is calling Russian disinformation, potential Russian disinformation. See if you can understand why this is being framed as Russian disinformation. Number one, record inflation. Ooh. Number two, unaffordable prices for food. That's a very Russian disinformation-y. Risk of job loss for white Americans. Yep, Russian disinformation. Privileges for people of color. Right, so white people are being. In Canada, the government's policy is to subsidize wages of foreigners and not Canadians. Canadians can get effed, right? And we're going to talk about the job numbers in a couple of tabs, but holy smoke, right? Like, if you talk about that, that's Russian disinformation. Incredible, right? Carl, what's his name? Ian says, are you kidding me with this? Yeah. It's people see through it, but just because we see through it doesn't mean they're not going to continue doing it. LBC says, messing with kids' minds in a big way. Tony Blair calls for greater social media regulation as he admits we can't go on like this. Who cares what Tony Blair thinks? Censorship is coming, says Sargon of Akkad. Brazil was just the test case. Brazil and the United Kingdom, throw them all in prison for their social media posts, right? Like, are we starting a civil war? Is that what's going to happen right now? Because I feel like if they start throwing people in jail, people aren't going to tolerate that, but I could be wrong. England's tolerating it. England is. So AF Post says YouTube terminates Lauren Chen and Tenant Media's channels. So there's a little bit more color on that Russia story, but I feel like this is the Russia hoax 3.0 starting up. Randy Hillier is complaining that he's not being included in Russia's money giveaway. He says, why hasn't Putin and the Kremlin not offered me any money? I'm opposed to the perverted trans agenda and the DEI BS and the proxy war in Ukraine. I think I'm getting screwed. CBC News says social media accounts of two of Canada's most vocal far-right pundits have fallen unusually silent after the U.S. officials accused them of being collaborators of a covert Russian propaganda campaign. So there's a whole CBC article saying, listen, like there's some Canadian influencers, far-right Canadian influencers, who are now, because they've been accused of being Russian stooges, are being quiet on social media, so they must be guilty, right? They're going to try and shut it all down and say, oh, anybody saying any of these things that are obviously happening in our current country, and not because of the Russians, but because of Justin Trudeau or because of Biden, Harris, et cetera, that's Russian disinformation, and you're probably a terrorist, right? Toss you in the gulag. Here's CBC. Meet the right-wing Canadian influencers accused of collaborating with an alleged Russian propaganda scheme. Tenant Media founder Lauren Chen allegedly took funds from pro-Moscow outlet. The social media accounts of two of Canadians' most vocal far-right pundits have fallen silent after U.S. officials accused them of being collaborators of a covert Russian propaganda campaign. On Wednesday, the U.S. Justice Department unsealed an indictment against two Russian nationals, accusing them of setting up a conservative media outlet as a front for pro-Kremlin propaganda. The media outlet was unnamed in the indictment, but it was clear from the details within that the charges referred to Tenant Media, founded in 2023 by a Canadian influencer known as Lauren Chen and her husband Liam Donovan. Among the people they hired last year was Chen's longtime friend and occasional collaborator Lauren Southern, another Canadian far-right influencer with a massive social media following. In the few months it operated, the outlet produced a steady stream of content favorable to Donald Trump, including an appearance by his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump. Since the indictment was made public, several Tenant Media collaborators have come forward to claim they were unaware of how the company was funded. So, this is a smear trying to encapsulate Trump, trying to take down all of these right-wing people, saying, see, they were working with Russia the whole time. And I mean, I don't know, it seems like a setup. These allegations clearly show that I and other commenters were victims in this scheme, Dave Rubin says. A right-wing pundit with 2.45 million YouTube subscribers wrote on X. Southern and Chen have yet to speak publicly. Neither has posted anything since the indictment was made public. And so, what do you think? Do you think that Lauren Chen is a Russian puppet? She's taking money and she's trying to peddle influence, or is this whole thing fabricated in order to gain more control over the internet? Right? Gov.exe says it's amazing how investigative journalism can link certain social media users to Russian outlets, but cannot link certain MPs to foreign interference. So Lauren Chen did it. It certainly wasn't Han Dong. It wasn't Han Dong who busted in those Chinese students and took that seat, right? The Chinese people didn't pick Han Dong, right, to be in the cabinet. Sure, right? So can't get to the bottom of that, but Lauren Chen's the problem. That's a problem, and a big one. And nobody seems to be interested in talking about that one. And Jagmeet Singh broke with the Liberals, and obviously they're Russian stooges too, right? Globe and Mail is reporting NDP used stock images from Russia in video weeks after decrying conservatives for doing the same. Russian stooges. Oh my gosh. Did they hire Lauren Chen too? Mike Benz is saying, what's happening with censorship in Brazil goes all the way to the top. Just 1 month into Lula's term, President Biden and President Lula met in Washington and specifically pledged the U.S. government would work together with Brazil's government to stamp out, quote, disinformation. He continues, it's not an accident that the U.S. State Department, USAID, and NED poured millions into developing Brazil's censorship ecosystem. Biden pledged to work together with Lula on stamping out disinformation, which means state censorship work in Brazil likely had White House NSC approval. So this is a plan. They're rolling it out. Everybody's supposed to be on board. And do you think that Canada is harmonized with the United States with regards to this? I think probably, especially since Biden, Harris, and Justin Trudeau are two sides of the same globalist coin, right? Same thing. Jackie, let's move on. We're going to talk about digital IDs, and then we're going to talk about Calgary's water, and then we're going to talk about housing. We're going to talk about Jagmeet Singh and the election, and then we're going to get into our grab bag of governance. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Digital ID. Let's talk about that. Jackie says, so it begins. Digital ID will be required from November 24 in the United Kingdom for anyone traveling to EU countries with the new entry and exit system. It's being rolled out and set up currently right now. So this is a gov.uk website, and it says EU entry and exit system. From autumn 2024, that's November roughly, but they don't have an exact date. The EU will be introducing a new digital border system to strengthen the security of its external Schengen border. Now, the funny thing about this here, I've highlighted it because it stuck out to me so much, is EES, the system that they're calling it, I can't remember what it's called. EES, where do they come up with the acronym? Entry Exit System. EES, entry exit system. EES is designed to improve a door. Is it designed to improve border security, including tackling illegal migration? Aren't they just importing these people? Like, isn't all of Europe at this point in time under a full-blown invasion that's supported by taxpayer dollars via NGOs? No. And now they want us to tackle illegal immigration with a digital ID? What? We've been bamboozled again. And they talked about this during COVID. They were like, we need to bring in this digital ID to keep people safe from COVID. And now they're just like, we just need to bring it in for, I don't know, the invasion that's ongoing that we're funding with our tax dollars. So it's pretty crazy. Anyway, the new registration process called the Entry Exit System, or EES for short, is expected to be introduced in November. However, EU has yet to confirm a specific date. It will apply to those traveling to the Schengen area, which encompasses all EU countries except from Cyprus and Ireland. Additionally, the non-EU states Iceland, Norway, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein, I'm getting that wrong, are also part of the Schengen area. This will require most citizens of countries outside the EU to create a digital record and register their biometric details, such as providing fingerprints and having their photo taken when they enter the Schengen area. This should only take a few minutes for each person to do. British travelers will need to do this on their first visit to the EU after EES is introduced. Their record will be checked on point of entry into the Schengen area, verifying either fingerprint or photograph. At some point in the south of England, Dover, Eurotunnel, and St. Pancras, where the French border force operates immigration checks in the UK, EES will be carried out before departure. There may be increased wait times while EES registration is completed before passengers leave the UK. If British travelers decide to visit a country in the Schengen area, again within a 3-year period of creating the digital record, they will only need to provide either their fingerprint or photograph at the border on entry and exit. EES will bolster border security for both EU and their neighboring countries. More information on EES can be found in the EU's official Travel Europe website. And why is the EU introducing this? To tackle illegal migration, you see, right? That countries in the West are being forced to adopt to because our governments have become traitors and have betrayed the people that they're supposed to represent. Weird. Rosie says, notice not to protect their border. This money's to get the illegals in faster. Martin says $16 million is headed to New Mexico to help CBP, this is the Border Patrol, maintain order at the border by assisting asylum seekers who are lawfully processed into the United States. Proud to deliver the funds as a leader on Senate appropriations. And so, yeah, it's not to stop any of the invasion. It's to
our
fund
governments
people
that we had so much trust in.
Yeah, Christine Anderson is very skeptical that we should trust these people because it seems like they've sold us out. So I'll let her say that rather than me reading it. Here we go.
Our governments that we had so much trust in can no longer be trusted because they are out to get us. And as I was just trying to say, COVID was just, one small aspect of the entire theme of things we're seeing now. There's, this transgenderism, which once again is robbing us of our sexual identity. You have this multiculturalism, which is undermining our societies, our traditions, our culture, our values, our national sovereignty. You see the climate madness, next thing, right? Which they will use to, pretty much restrict individual mobility, your abilities, to visit other countries, to fly, and all of this. Then you had digital ID. That's the next thing. So the COVID pass was just, kind of like the test balloon for the digital ID, digital currency, of course, which will be the ultimate control mechanism of every single human being on this planet. And then, of course, the fight against hate speech, disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation. That's the new thing now. So these are all measures and pretty much agendas that are being pushed through, which ultimately will abolish freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. And it is really refreshing to see that a lot of people are waking up to those issues and that they are seeing through it and beginning to realize what they're up against. So I encourage people to, number one, turn off your freaking TV set, because it's not going to do you any good. It's dumbing you down. Talk to people, end your silence. Because with everyone ending their silence and speaking up, you break the cycle of the brainwashing and gaslighting stuff going on. And
that's why they shut me down, because I don't fall in line. If I'm skeptical, I say that doesn't make sense. Or if I think this is bullshit, or if I think they're trying to manipulate you, I point out how they're trying to manipulate you, or how I think they're trying to manipulate you. And that's why they can't tolerate my show. That's why they hate me. Because I say bullshit, and then I point out why it's bullshit. Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful